Are we ready? We ready for the dramatic?
Wait, you gotta give me the intro. You gotta give me the
Yeah,
intro.
no, everybody introducing your favorite, the number one, the Dave
Whoa,
Walter.
whoa, 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 it's me. What? Hey, hi. Yes, once again, that was the dozens and dozens of my fans cheering there.
Dozens,
Yeah, dozens.
dozens. How did you fit them all in your room? Is impressive.
Yeah. It's well, they're off to the side over there. You know what I
Bigger
mean?
on the
Like
inside,
it's
right?
a oh yeah, no, it's a strong 35 passionate people. Yeah, for sure.
Well, welcome everybody to another DM Deep Dive with B. Dave Walters. I'm super excited to be here today to chat with one of our favorites. He's coming to the castle this July in the USA for our youth table, which is going to be super great. And we're going to talk about that. And I already see we have questions before we even started, which is exciting. And I hope your body is ready, B. Dave, to answer those.
Perpetually.
But I think we'll get started for a little bit before we get into those. I did want to say I think this is the most number of deep dives we've had one DM do. I think you're holding the record right now, B. Dave.
Look, man, look. Okay, so Mark Meir, Elisa Teague, and I were in active competition for who'd done the most events. And then Mark and I pulled away from Elisa. And then Mark has pulled away from me, mostly because of the pandemic. It was close. I refuse to check exactly because then I have to say out loud that he 100% has escaped me. So, but I'm pretty sure he may have a slight lead. He may have a slight lead. So the fact that I am the deep diviest DM, I will accept. Yeah.
Wear that crown proudly. We're gonna really get into your brain, deep dive right into it. No secrets.
Have a deep dive hood.
There you go.
Wait, I don't know if it's gonna work. There you go.
There you go.
My hood of deep diving.
Excellent. Well, why don't we get into this? You're joining us this summer at our youth table. We're really excited to have you both at the UK and the USA this summer. So you want your fill of B-Dave, he'll be there. So tell us about your table, what you're excited about, and give us a little teaser what's coming.
Okay, so first, I think saying youth is a bit of a misnomer because it sounds like there's going to be like 7-year-olds at the table. They're not. As of now, there's one kid there and they're 16. So but what it is a family friendly table. So it will be a youth friendly table, but not a kids game. So full disclosure, this campaign that I'm running this year, Titans of Doom, is pretty intense. I actually, the first time I ran it, I actually freaked myself out with a particular like villainous monologue. So I'm definitely gonna do something different for that table. I want to pull up a little bit. Because I don't want to just take the existing campaign and like defang it type thing. So, but yeah, if you're thinking about coming to Ohio, you definitely should. You definitely should. It's a beautiful facility, and it's going to be a fun time. But please do not think that it is going to be like kindergarten game time. It'll still be emotional torment manipulation, as I am wont to do, but one that will be slightly less traumatic. Only
just
skosh.
lately, just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could make the argument that 16 is old enough to learn how this world really works, and so maybe I'll make it worse. Maybe I'll make it worse,
There you
but at
go.
least it'll be different.
There you go. There you go. I think that was a great call out, though, that this is not just a youth table. So it's not just a bunch of youths at it. It is a family friendly table, and which is what we have named it for our future events. So in November, we also have the family mode. So that pretty much is what it is. You're playing at a table with a 17 or younger at the table, which I've heard can be kind of the most fun.
I've done it a few times. I mean, it's part of the reason why I was asked to do this is I've run quite a lot of games for kids. I have kids, so it's like that doesn't bother me at all. And a lot of times, teenagers especially are the most creative and the most innovative because they're not burdened down with all the things you can't do, and they're not burdened down with propriety. And so they dig deeper and actually are able to deliver more. It's quite a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why you were asked also to run the Stranger Things cast as well, right? So you've gotten plenty of example with that. And that's available online, right, to watch if we want to go back and look at it.
Yeah, it's Netflix geeked. I think those kids were already in their 20s by then. But yes, to your point, yes. I did run the game for the cast of Stranger Things. It's a Netflix geeked. It was a whole lot of fun. Yeah, it was and that's probably pretty reflective of a similar vibe is what I will do for the family table. So thank you, Hopper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's eh, the only reason I'm not even 100% is I want to see what the final head count is and what we really end up with because again I don't want to have it be the Faerun Chainsaw Massacre and then have it be like turns out you know, so yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
be a good
Well,
time.
yeah, we still have some seats left too. So if you're interested in playing with B Dave and a family friendly table, there's still some seats left. But I don't think there'll be too many because who doesn't want to go play with B Dave?
That is true.
Usually
That
sell
is
out pretty quick.
Titans of Doom, not Titans
Titans
of
of
Dang, Titans of
Titans of Doom.
Doom.
Doom. Yes.
Doom.
Doom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not Titans of child friendly, Titans of Doom.
correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what I think it's in July, isn't it? Or is it no, it's the end of June
This is
because
the
after
end of June, early July, June 29th through July 3rd.
yeah, and
Yep.
then I'm home for like 3 days and I leave and go to England. So yeah, that's how hard my life is. So yeah, if it's the Ohio events I find having been blessed to do a few of them. I was there for the first one. They're a little more intimate than the castle in the sense that um the venue's physically smaller. Usually people have traveled less of a distance. A lot of times it's people that have kind of come there regionally. It is mostly Americans and Canadians versus the castles, people from all over the world, but obviously a lot of Europeans because they're closer. It is more of almost like a summer camp vibe. It's like the venue itself is really cool. It is kind of like being in Rivendell from the Lord of the Rings, and I just a big fan of it. And there's a great big castle right in the middle with a high tower. And the last couple of times I was there, I was fortunate that I got a room at the top of the tower, so hopefully I still will. I'm making meaningful eye contact with Justin, who I know can see me. And yeah, it's a really really neat venue. So if you're thinking about it, thinking about coming out, it's definitely do it. You will absolutely not regret it. It's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I think that's a great example of what's going to be different between the UK and the USA castles. And you're coming to the new castle in
Yes.
the UK as well. So you're just getting all of the firsts for us, which I think is
It's
great.
it's everything I
Um,
can do to keep pace with Mark Meer. That's it. Look, like he's objectively beautiful. He's got better hair than me. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot. He's got a lot going for him, right? So I have to rig the deck, and he may well no, he's not at the Newcastle. Ha ha. So
he's
yeah,
not. He's
right.
not.
Hmm.
So you'll have that on him, and you'll have the DM deep dive
That
crown
is true.
or
That
hoodie,
is true.
as we've established
That's
now.
it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I appreciate his him being magnanimous about letting me have this one thing. Yeah.
That's very nice of him.
Well, no,
Well, we can talk about.
I was gonna say on an unrelated
Go
note, I
for
was
it.
watching a recap of LA by Night, the vampire show that I was on, and he was on also. And even though I'd met him before, I didn't know him very well when he came on. And it's like just seeing both of us in 2018, I was like, man, a lot has changed in 6 years. Again, I keep getting older and he stays the same. I don't get it. Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
amazing. I think I don't think he's totally human, but in like the best
Hmm.
way because he's so nice. He's also got
Yeah,
that
he's
going
like a
for
fake
him.
creature. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, welcome to the DM deep dive where we talk about Mark Meer the whole time.
Hey, I
So
didn't say what we were deep diving about. I just said that we were deep diving, you know?
into your
Yeah.
mind. I get it. Well, we actually have someone who said that they love you on VTM as Victor Temple, and they wanted to know what you enjoy more as a player or DM.
Well, first of all, I had to reach for the Venture Rosary. They're right here. I keep them close. I keep that thing loaded, you know? Um, it's funny. People used to always ask me which I preferred more, being a DM or a player, and I would always say both. And I love them equally. And I didn't mean that to be disingenuous because I do. However, one thing I've come to realize is when given the choice to play the game or run the game, I choose running the game 100% of the time. Like, I have never opted out of running a game in favor of playing it ever. So I guess the answer is DMing. But I do enjoy playing because when you're playing, um, you're still telling your own story. And in me, you knowing the game as I do, I'm trying to figure out which way the DM or the storyteller in vampire parlance is going so I can make sure we're rowing in the same direction. Um, Not to like try and spoil plot points, but again, quite the opposite. That if that I can be like, oh, you're setting up the fact that the Grand Vizier is going to get poisoned at midnight type thing, then I'm going to do everything in our power to make sure that like we're in position for that to happen versus willfully trying to run that off the rails, which I know some people do that on occasion. This is a completely unrelated note. As I was just reaching for my rosary, I usually keep my Ventru dice box right here next to me, and I thought I'd lost it, and I was freaking out. And then I remembered that we had the fires not too long ago. Both Hopper and I are in Southern California, although we were removed from it. But they got close enough to me that I had to at least have a go bag ready, and I put my
Yeah.
vampire dice in my go bag. That I was like, if I'm only gonna leave my home with honestly like 2 bags I can carry over my back, one of the things I included was my freaking vampire dice with my original Venture
Got it.
dice case.
We are deep diving to see what is important to B Dave and the vampire
Man, let
dice.
me tell you something. You find out real fast when you're like you got a duffel bag to put your life in. You learn real quick what can and cannot go. It was wild. I didn't I I hate to say, because in hear me, I'm not trying to make light of the people that lost everything. My heart goes out to them. But as I was really thinking about it, it's like I love my stuff, but my stuff's just stuff. I was like, let me make sure the kids are all right. Let me make sure the cats are all right. Let me just one or two keepsakes I can't like I have my late grandfather's Bible and my late father's Bible. I grabbed both of their Bibles, and my Bibles and my vampire dice. That is literally all I was going to take out of this entire studio because Tiamat was too big to fit in the bag. I thought about it. I was
Yeah.
like, can I get her out of here? Can I? I'm like, nah, she'll.
Just strap her to the roof of your
It's
car and just
you
let
know,
her in the wind.
y'all. You think I'm joking? I really was like, is there a way I can get my girl out of here? And I was like, nah, I get another one. I get another one. So
Yeah. Right. What is that? Vampire dice, I think, are a little harder to get than
yeah,
Tiamat,
true.
weirdly. But yeah. 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 Sinister says save the dice. And I think we all know as D&D
Yep.
players, the dice are going in
It's
our bag for our
actually
go
they
bag.
did, by the way. As I look around from like, where are my dice? I'm like, oh, they also
Right.
went in the bag. That is true.
I understand. Well, that's awesome. Well, we have some more questions. And I know you have done Titans of Doom
Mhm.
before, and we've talked about another deep dive. So if you really want a bigger, I guess, or a longer explanation of it, we can go back and look at those. But if people don't know, you are very well known for running high
Yes.
level campaigns. And so Natalie Walker asked, how do you plan encounters at a high level where everyone can be quite varied?
Well, let me say just a little bit about Titans of Doom because one that when I did my
Sure.
last deep dive, it was theoretical. I was like, I'm about to do this, and now I've had a chance to do it a couple times.
Right.
And
Yeah, let's do it.
what I planned for it was so every year I write an original campaign, and I kind of run that campaign at all of the events for that year, and then I write a new one after that. And the events are roughly in continuity with each other of everything that has happened. So what Titans of Doom is basically the culmination of the last few years adventures. So it is Vecna, Tiamat, and Asmodeus have like combined their forces to finally take over because Vecna got close, was defeated, Tiamat got close, was defeated, and now it is like the Legion of Doom has formed, and so the characters have to come and stop this terrible triumvirate for essentially taking over everything. In that Tiamat would rule over the living, Vecna would rule over the dead, and Asmodeus would reap all the souls that come to him eventually, which is probably not positive. And so maybe you should do something about that. Yeah.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, so how do you plan encounters like that at a high level?
Yeah, well, it's funny when the reason why high level is my niche is not only do I just love it, like I grew up reading comic books, and I just my favorite stories are the ones where the fate of the world or many worlds hangs in the balance. And when I first got started, fewer than 5% of campaigns had level 20 characters in them. And not even had played from 1 to 20, just even had level 20 characters. So it was just a thing people weren't doing. And so I just kind of wanted to show people that it's not so bad because it is, yes, the players have far more options, but because of the action economy of, still action, move action, bonus action, reaction, um, I mean, with rare exception, there's action surge and time stop and some other shenanigans, but for the most part, you still can only do so many things. So the way I plan for this is my design philosophy is the same at level 20 as it is at level 1. I figure out a solution. Not the solution, but I figure out a solution. And then I make the challenge as hard as I possibly can. Like, I will put you in a burning building because I know there's a window on the 3rd floor you could jump out of and survive the fall. But whether or not you figure that out is up to you. And whether or not you figure out something completely different and unique, that's fine too, because again, the players and the dice will surprise and betray you. So even though I have an encyclopedic knowledge of 5th edition, I don't know absolutely everything. And especially with some of the new changes, there's a lot of things I've yet to commit to memory. So all kinds of people are capable of all kinds of things that I don't expect. And when that happens, I just roll with it. I just yes and even when I very, very, very rarely say no at the table, because no just impedes progress. No impedes fun. If anything, the most likely thing I will say is like, let's roll it and let's let fate decide. If somebody's asking me something that is just flatly not what the rules allow, then my question is, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Because especially newer players will say things like, I want to throw a fistful of ashes into his eye, and then I want to shoot him in the knee. And it's like, okay, well, what are you trying to do? What you're trying to do is distract and slow them. Okay. Well, here's something you can do that is going to accomplish that same thing. Or I will use those existing mechanics of a thing and just reflavor it. I think people greatly underestimate reflavoring things. Same things with reskinning monsters. That if you need something that is going to challenge a level 20 group and you're doing something like a crown of candy that Dimension 20 did and everything is candy themed, you can tell them they're fighting the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man, even though you're using a flesh golem stat block, and just describe it as the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man. You don't ever have to like make things overly complicated for yourself. It's really not that hard to do.
That's great. That's great. It sounds like it kind of pushes your imagination too, as well as the players who get to find out creative ways to save the universe. It
Yep.
sounds like.
Yep. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And go
No, no,
ahead.
no. No, I'm agreeing.
No. So with that follow up question is, do you prefer seeing optimized or balanced characters at level 20 tables?
There are no balanced characters at level 20. One of the things that I tell people is make the wildest, most broken character that you can. Try to break the game. Like, try to be too much. Because first of all, you're not going to out optimize me. Like, you're just not. And so I'm not worried about that. And a lot of time, I never understand why people are even worried about that at the table, because I'm like, if I've got a greatly overpowered character, I'm like, I'll attack you with you. I'll attack you with 5 duplicates of you. You know, unkillable moon druid barbarian. Great. Here's 6 other ones. Roll initiative, right? And even if you have a dramatic imbalance, because one of the things you got to remember as a storyteller, everyone needs a chance to shine in every session, and everybody needs a chance to be a rock star. And there may be a session where the spotlight is more on a certain person, but the talky character needs a chance to talk, the sneaky character needs a chance to sneak, the fighting character needs a chance to fight every time. even though you may have a more sneaky session or a more talky session or a more fighty session. So if I've had situations where I myself had made incredibly optimized characters. In 3.5, I won D&D. I truly made an unkillable
You
character.
can
I
do
did.
that?
I didn't know I could, but I did. I made a
Okay.
truly unkillable character. Like if for those of you that were there at the time, if you know what Pun Pun was, I basically pulled off Pun Pun. And the character was unbeatable, unkillable. And believe it or not, that's fun for like 2 sessions. You know, when you're like, hooray, I can do anything. And then you're like, oh, I can do anything. And you're like, hooray, no one can hurt me. And then you're like, oh, no one can hurt me. So I had to start finding reasons myself for my character to like leave or avoid fights or things. So what I do now is if I have situations like this where you have someone who is, we'll say like a Sorkinen that is just like a sledgehammer versus like a very unoptimized circle of the land druid, in those encounters, drop in other things that are clearly meant for the strong character to handle. So it might be like instead of one dragon, there's 2 dragons, or instead of a dragon, there is a dragon and an army of half a dozen wyverns that are all spread out so no one person can fireball, right? So everybody has something they can do and contribute to the combat, or make something more skill based, or have some high stakes negotiation taking place during the combat, stuff like that. It's the ideally the parties are like somewhat equally yoked, and just the design ethos of 5th edition kind of makes it where for the most part they are, whereas again in previous editions this just was not the case. But even if there is a massive imbalance, it is still not particularly difficult to just make sure there is a fitting challenge for each person. And the worst thing I would do is I would pull the strong character aside. I never nerf characters. I never ban things like silvery barbs and stuff like that. People are like, I don't allow silvery barbs. I'm like, I do. I just give it to the bad guys also. Um, but it's you might pull them aside and you might be like, hey man, in this next combat I'm gonna send, you fight the ogre. Okay, you let them deal with the other thing. You fight the ogre type thing. And most people super get that, especially when you're like, bro, you're just too strong. So let them make sure they get to do some stuff also. Unless somebody's just a raging jerk, they're gonna be all right with that. And if they are a raging jerk, then you got a different problem and deal with it accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you make a good point. A lot of the players that come to the castle that I've seen are really great at letting each other have moments and working together. And I'm actually curious about you've been to the castle, you said a lot. You've been coming for quite a few years.
I've done
I
it
think
like
the first year, right?
I've done like
Yeah,
23 or 24 tables. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We're competing against Mark
Mhm.
Mir. But what keeps you coming back to the castle, especially coming to these different
Uh,
locations?
little bit.
Just a little bit. Why do you want?
Well, I was not there for the first year because the first year was actually in France. I was there for the second year, though. Yes, that is true. So I was there at the beginning. When the deep magic was written. Yes. Um, it's it is interesting because it is obviously, having been over there like 10 or 11 times now, just the novelty of the fact that, oh, I'm going to England. I mean, I have done that now. I have exhausted the neat things to see within a stone's throw of Lumley Castle, right? But it is I like it because the experience is never the same twice. The people are never the same twice, although there are significant numbers of people that return, and so you definitely see some familiar faces, and sometimes you get to play with them too. But it's you can run the exact same scenario 10 times and you'll get 10 different outcomes. And that's what I like about it. I like seeing people's faces light up. I like seeing the different ways people engage with the content, the way they engage with each other. Um, it's it's not a vacation at all. It is definitely work, but it is neat to do it in a different environment, if that makes sense. Um, just to see the different seasons in the area. Getting to it's just the prestige of it. I mean, it's just dope to be able to say, like, oh, I'm gonna be out of town because I'm gonna be in England for 2 weeks running Dungeons and Dragons at a castle. It's just it is such a wonderful privilege to even get to participate in. And I also know, especially now, there's people who have literally spent years saving for some of these experiences. And I take that very seriously. I take very seriously the fact that a person works so hard to have an experience with me, and I want to make sure I deliver the absolute best that I can for them. Um, and people make lifelong connections out of this, and they have because once you've been through some things together, um there's just a shared experience and almost like a shared language that goes with it. And yeah, I love it. I guess the TLDR is because it's never the same twice.
Yeah, and I think for DMs and players, it's just such a blast to come to the castle and see a different group of people. And yeah, and we do have some repeats coming this USA in this June, July, but also some new faces. So I'm really excited to see them. And I think we have maybe time for one more question if someone wants to drop it. But I do want to know what you are looking forward to coming back to the USA castle this year.
I see somebody was just saying, if you can ever make the finances work, do it. You will have a blast. I completely
Yep.
agree. I completely agree. It's
Yep.
the most interesting thing to me is um I have a way I do things. I've been telling stories for quite a while now, so people kind of have an idea of what to expect when you sit down at my table. And uh I find it's like there's a chicken for every pot, like the right people find the right table every time and have the right experience every time. I mean, I've been privy to seeing hundreds of people pass through those doors. And I think I am aware of one person ever that had to be moved tables that I know of. Out of hundreds of people in dozens and dozens of tables, that's quite something. And somebody was saying that they're nervous about traveling and meeting new people. It is. I know you're going to be shocked to hear this, and don't tell anybody that I told you. But the hobby of Dungeons and Dragons tends to be appealing to a lot of socially awkward people. I know it's weird. It's weird hearing me say that out loud. So I assure you, you're not the only person that is going to be there and is a little nervous and is kind of on the wall a little bit, not quite knowing what to do. And the whole event is built around getting people to feel welcome and getting people to feel like they're a part of it, and not to make you do anything other than feel like you belong. And I think you will find very quickly that everyone um, finds exactly their space, finds exactly their vibe, and just has a wonderful, memorable time. And you asked me a different question. I went off talking on what I just saw the questions.
I think that's great, and I think that answers it. What are you looking forward to? And it sounds like you're looking forward to the
Always.
people and seeing. Yeah, yeah. So, and then Natalie, I think put it very well. You're amongst like-minded nerdy souls, and like you said, you're welcome at the castle. And whether or not you are super extroverted like myself or super introverted like B Dave, apparently, um,
I am nothing if not subtle and reserved.
but it is such a great place, and we've seen people make a lot of friends, lifelong friends at the castle. So I could talk about it all day, but we are at time. So why don't we start wrapping this up? B Dave, where can we find you online? Where can the people come follow you and find you?
You can find me all over the interwebs, wherever fine streaming content can be located. Definitely check out that game I ran for the cast of Stranger Things if you've never seen it. I'm B. Dave Walters everywhere. I am still active on the burning, desiccated corpse of Twitter. And yeah, gonna be putting out more and more content. Of course, check out my website, theundisputedacademy.com.
Undisputed B-Day Walters. Well, thank you so much for coming again. And I hope to see you again as we keep this streak of most DM deep dives going. We'd love to have you back and see more about what do you think about Mark Meer?
I'll spend the rest of this time saying nice things about Mark Meer. If I have to be in someone's shadow, I'm glad it's his. But watch, you want to see something I can do that Mark Meer can't do? Watch this.
And he is out. Thank you guys for joining us at D&D in the Castle. I was going to ask B-Dave to take us out, but he already did. So maybe I can get his disembodied voice to do that for us before we say goodbye. And so B-Dave's voice, please invite us to the castle this June 29th through July 3rd at your youth table.
Look at this. You got 2 dramatic fade-ins.
Whoa!
Look at that. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. If you have a chance. Obviously, it is not a small investment, but I think it is one that you will not regret if you have the ability to do so. If you don't have the ability to do so, don't feel bad. We're going to keep doing these things and we'll catch you at the next one. But yeah, coming up in June in Ohio, coming up in July at a new castle that is not in Newcastle, but is near Newcastle. So it's a new castle near Newcastle. Yeah. And then also, spoiler alert, we're doing it again in November also. And spoiler alert, going to have some lake house events that are even smaller and more intimate that are unannounced. So there's a lot of opportunities to get to belly up at a table with me, with Mark Meer, with all kinds of other wonderful storytellers. There is no wrong answer. So if you have the opportunity and you're considering doing it, please come roll some dice with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, B-Dave. And we will see you guys next week for the next deep dive. See ya.